Periodically, universities award one of the members of their university community with recognition because of their outstanding service. It's my privilege today to recognize Professor Richard Raleigh for 50 years of teaching at St. Thomas University and his wonderful distinguished service. Not over yet. I draw your attention now, please be seated. I draw your attention now to the video screens on either side of the auditorium as we see a little reprise about Richard Raleigh.
St. Thomas University, back then called Biscayne College, had just graduated its first class 50 years ago when a young professor arrived on campus. Richard Raleigh was born in Detroit, Michigan. After receiving his undergraduate and graduate degrees in English from the University of Detroit, in 1964 he headed south and never looked back. He landed a summer teaching job at the Catholic St. Leo University in Central Florida. 2 short years later, young Richard Raleigh would make it to South Florida and land his first full-time teaching job as instructor of English at Biscayne College. During the early 70s, he lived on campus for a year in the dorms to help students with their social life. This contributed to the opening of the Rathskeller on campus and the introduction of Student Olympics for residential students. All throughout the 80s and 90s, he remained a major force and a big part in promoting social and academic activities for students. A professor of English and the humanities, he is a published poet whose work has also appeared in over 24 literary quarterlies and is recognized as one of the earliest members of the Hemingway Society. His interest in radio, photography, and videotaping led to his hosting of Live from St. Thomas University on Radio Peace and 10 years as a weekend announcer-producer for WTMI's South Florida's Voice of the Arts. He is also known as our resident historian on all things St. Thomas, from the university's founding, its Augustinian roots, and its expansion into the St. Thomas University of today. In the early years, he filmed a series of interviews with the founders and earliest faculty members, staff, and students of the university, and turned the material into a book, Biscayne College, The Charter Years. Professor Raleigh was the director of the Humanities Division for several years. He initiated the first summer school sessions and the Communication Arts major. In 1980, he became the first STU professor to participate in a faculty exchange program, teaching that year at Villanova University, and taught the first STU study abroad program, a semester in Spain. He is also credited with hiring longtime colleague Dr. James Conley. But it is in the classroom at Mimi Dooner Hall, previously called Kennedy Hall, that Professor Raleigh has left his mark throughout the years. He has been loved by his students ever since he became a professor, being voted St. Thomas University Professor of the Year 9 times and receiving the Logos Yearbook Tribute in 1976. And today, he remains much loved and remembered by STU alumni throughout the years, and immensely admired and respected by his colleagues and friends.
Professor Richard Raleigh, for those wonderful years, 50 years of service, I now present you the Presidential Award of St. Thomas University for Distinguished Service.